So I just sat down to edit Colleen's episode. And I realized you don't know who Colleen is. Colleen Pendergast is a friend of mine who worked at Apple for many years, I think 16 years. And she was, I think her final title was like the head of design for the Final Cut team. She's going to tell us about all the stuff she did. But I was so excited to talk to her because it's a very interesting look, excuse me, behind the curtain of how a piece of software gets developed. And she's fairly candid about some of the meetings and the discussions and how different features came to develop. And it's important for us as users to understand how hard they have to get something built, to get it designed, implemented, figure out what everything means. I think you're going to enjoy this interview. So I've never done this before with a little introduction, but it's important that you understand who Colleen is. And as I started to sit down to edit it, that's a little different too. I realized I just sat down and started talking to my friend. Also, I want to point out, just technically, this is the first episode I've done using Riverside. Now, I used Riverside to record it, and I got to tell you, I'm going to have to do a tutorial about this. One of my favorite features is that all my chapter headers are done. That's really cool. We'll do a tutorial about how I do it, and also, I really want to get in contact with somebody at Riverside because they have a feature where you can export a Final Cut timeline from their editor, which I didn't use. And that exported timeline, nearly worthless. So I'd love to talk to somebody there to make that better. I just realized my mic's way over there. I might have to re-record this. Anyway, let's go to the interview with Colleen. I suck at this, don't I? How have you been?
I'm good. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
in the she shed, chilling.
So this is the most nervous I've been for any interview I've ever done.
It's like you say that every podcast.
No, I don't. I've said it. I said it one other time. I can't remember who it was now. Oh, I remember. So, there's this whole wave of new YouTubers that are, pimping Final Cut, and they're fantastic. I don't know if you follow any of them.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
Who have you watched?
I've seen. I'm not going to remember any of their names. I've seen just like bits and pieces. I see a lot of things on Instagram and little bits and pieces on YouTube, but it's exciting to watch it for sure.
So I sat with Dylan Bates. He's
okay.
Final Cut bro. And I did tell him the exact same BS line. I'm so nervous to talk to you. No, but it wasn't BS. And actually, I'm going to do an interview with his dad because his dad's in production too.
Is he using Final Cut too? Are they work together?
He calls himself the Final Cut dad. No, they don't work together. I think Dylan got his start by watching his dad. Anyway,
that's awesome.
So if people don't know, this is my friend Colleen Pendergast.
Hi.
I'm excited to talk to you because one, you've agreed to talk. Two, of all the people I know at Apple, I think who have left, you worked there the longest. You worked there longer than Steve.
Yeah.
Longer than Estelle, and she's back now.
Yeah.
She may catch up. Longer than Wes, but I put together this little chart.
God.
Well, no, it's the way my brain works, right? So, you started it according to LinkedIn. This is all the research I have. I haven't been stalking you since 2005, but according to LinkedIn, you started at 2005. Is that correct?
I think so.
Okay. And did
around
you
then?
It seems to me you've told me that you freelanced for Apple for a while before you took a full-time job. Is that correct?
No, I was a freelancer. I was freelance editor before I
Okay.
started at Apple, but I started at Apple as an employee.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to work for Apple. How do you do it?
Yeah.
What kind of work were you doing when they found you?
So I was doing video editing. I had worked for a small studio in Oakland for a while, and then I was working on my own. So I had a gig at a place called Link TV that
Hmm.
was in San Francisco that was kind of like an aggregator for world news at the
Hmm.
time. So it was like things like Al Jazeera and like all kinds of world documentaries that you couldn't find anywhere. So I was cutting trailers for them. Um, I did a couple documentaries and then I was doing cruise videos.
Oh, wow.
So I know I would go on the cruises and and then you'd cut like a half an hour video for the people on the cruises. So
Bunch
that's
of
what actually
drunk
what I
old
was
people
doing.
in a conga line.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing when I started. Like I started on what they called at the time the workflow team. And so I took the job and I'm like, I have a cruise coming up. Like I'd already committed to this work.
Did they
So
let you do it?
yeah, they let me do it. But then I
Oh, that's
brought the
cool.
footage back and what they had us do is as the workflow team, I was actually using the software to edit a project. So
Right.
I wasn't just doing test suites and like, how does this work and how does this feel? I was actually trying to use the project. And at the time, it was right before NAB and it was Multicam. I believe it was the Multicam release. I suck. I should have done my
No, you know what? I did a
research.
little research. So if you started in
It's like
2005,
3.5 maybe.
so if you started in 2005, in April 2005 was the was when they announced Final Cut 5.
Okay.
And so 4.5 was your cruise
Yeah.
standard def or HD?
No, it was HD.
Okay.
It was mini HD. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if that was
Yeah.
Final Cut 5, and I think if I read that correctly, that was the last standalone before it became
It
the
wasn't
Final
the suite
Cuts.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't
so
quite the suite.
actually, ironically, I was hired to work on Final Cut Express
Oh.
and I never touched the damn thing. Like, I mean, like never like that's what my job was. Like you're going to be the workflow tester for Final Cut Express. Um and I got in and I knew Final Cut. I mean, Final Cut Express is pretty much the same thing with less stuff. But I just started working on Final Cut and I'm like, I'm just not gonna mention it that they hired me to do this other thing.
So
So I never touched it.
you're the reason Final Cut Express died.
I never touched it, but that's what I was hired to do.
Yeah, it says right here in
Yeah.
Wikipedia, which had previously been supported in Final Cut Pro's scaled down version, Final Cut Express,
Yeah.
which died because of Colleen.
Yeah, I think that was it. We hired someone and then she just never touched it. She didn't do
So
her job.
did you have any inkling when you took that job that this was going to be
No.
a career? Or did you
No,
think it?
I was like, I'll do this for 2 years because I was freelancing. I was working in my house. I,
Living the
had
life.
clients. Like I was getting paid to do photo montages for people, but they would fly me to Palm Springs and I'd sit in a resort while they brought me their, SD cards of photos and I had to put it together for the end of a, conference. So I was like, so I'm like, no, I'll do it for 2 years. My brother worked there. So my brother is still at Apple and he worked on Final Cut as a QA tester. And then he went to work on Aperture when Aperture started. And so he was the one that was like, you should just come work here. And I'm like, why? I get to work in my pajamas. Um, and little did I know that would be what we do now again. Um, so yeah, so I literally thought 2 years and I had I was not a designer. So I mean, there wasn't design classes in, software design classes when I went to college. So I was a video editor and I came in on the workflow team and then that all morphed.
when I listen to Colleen talk about her life, it reminds me of very much, just being a video editor. And I think that it's a fascinating story. You're going to love the rest of this. Before we go any further, I want to thank a few people for supporting the show. As you know, I support the show through your donations. I don't think of you as listeners or viewers. You're producers. You help produce the show. And if you want to help support the show, it's very simple. I take some donations. We have this little QR code. You follow that. You click on the picture. It takes you to Square, and you can give whatever you want. And what I'd like you to do is think about what you're learning from the show. Do you learn anything from it? Are you just entertained? And if you are, what's that worth to you? So anyway, I want to thank the producers for this week's show. We had two. The first one comes from our good friend Brad Olsen, and he says, I can't believe he said this. He goes, comment, because Final Cut Pro was released in 1999, I'll pay the other $1,900 over time. Anyway, his donation this week was $99. Super generous, Brad. And I might just have to keep doing the show until I get the rest of that money out of you. I think that's what you're saying. Anyway, thank you. But unfortunately, Brad, this week you are going to be the associate executive producer because our friend Cirina from last week, unbeknownst to me, and actually she said she donated $100. So thank you so much, Cirina. She was concerned that people would think she was paying to be on the show. And I said, no, you're supporting, and I appreciate that. So anyway, if you donate the most, you get to be the executive producer, and Brad gave so much, he's going to be the associate executive producer. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, let's get back to Colleen. So let's talk about the design thing. You brought it up, and I talked about this with Wes a little bit the other day. And he had an interesting way of talking about like some of the design involved pixels, and then there was like the rest of it. So explain your job, because when I first met you, you said, "Oh, I'm I can't remember what title you gave me, like lead designer or whatever."
Yeah, sure.
And my mind immediately goes to, wow, you get to pick the radius of the curves of the buttons and stuff. Explain what you actually did.
So to explain it a little, the Final Cut team from the beginning was very different than the way the rest of Apple operates. So, and when I say that, like, even when I left, my team that we had built was half kind of what we call domain experts. And so people that really understand it, and then traditionally trained user interface designers, and then traditionally trained visual designers. That's what Wes might have said, VI, HI, UI. I mean, they use a lot of names. Now it's just like, you're a designer, because now you need to be able to do it all pretty much. So back in the day, like, the majority of us were workflow. So Brian, Randy at the time, like we were the ones doing all of, like, this is how it works. So I was never a pixel person. So I ended up managing the people that did that, and I can art direct, and I can do it, but that's not my talent. Like, that's not my jam. I never pretend to be good at it. There are people that do beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work, but we work super closely together because they have to understand the workflow in order to make something beautiful actually work. You can't just have something beautiful and have it not work. And you can't just have something work, but have it look like crap.
Well, you can. There's a lot of software out there.
Well, you can. Yeah. But that's why I think at Apple, we were like, it has to do both. So I think that's one of the things our team was really good at, was we all kind of worked really good together to have the people that understood, this corner radius is going to make it harder for the person to press the button. And I'm like, well, I need the button there. You help me work on what's going to make it easier to press. So we worked like that together.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay. So, so at first, when you were ignoring Final Cut Express,
Yeah.
You were working on it. It sounds like what you were saying is that you had taken this like cruise video.
Yeah.
And you were like just recutting it over and over. Like,
So
let's start from the
recutting it.
beginning. Where are the snags?
Yeah. And so writing up a lot of bugs. So we would write up the bugs, and the difference between, again, the bugs we were writing up, say on workflow, and a workflow team still exists at Apple on Final Cut, and they're a great bunch of
I would hope,
people, and
yeah.
they do amazing work. Um, but the bugs would be more like, I did this, it felt like it took me too many steps. Sometimes it'd be like it crashed, but
Got
other
it.
times it would be about how it felt and how we weren't always solving something right on the spot, but we were writing up like enhancements, like this could be better. This feels like I have to work around it in a way. This doesn't feel as smooth. Actually, this part is lagging. And so some of it was on performance, some of it was on that. So when I started, that was kind of the team I was on. And then what I can't tell you how many reorgs happened in the 15 plus years I was there. But then there was a reorg where half of that team went under the quality assurance team, and half of us went under a design structure. And so I just got picked. I don't know how. I really, again, was like, oh, you could do design. Okay, cool.
Had you gotten to your 2-year limit yet?
I
Or
think,
was
yeah,
that
it was
pretty
pretty fast. It was pretty
okay?
early on. It was in probably about a year and a half. The first year, this was the funny story. So the first year, so it was right before NAB, and it was my first NAB. I mean, not my first NAB. I'd been to NABs before. I went to NAB in college with a bunch of like with our media arts team, and I loved it. Thought it was the most amazing thing ever. Um, so it was my first NAB with Apple. Our team was, basically, then Apple had the big booth. We did all the demos on stage and everything, and we had a team meeting like 2 days prior, maybe even a day prior. And our workflow team gave it like a low rating. We're like, we think there's still some work to be done here. And so basically they're like, oh, really? Well, then you can stay home and figure out what that work is.
You thought what they were going to demo wasn't up to
Yeah.
par, like it wasn't
Yeah.
exciting enough?
We were finding too many bugs.
On your market set,
Not the
go and
demo,
invent a better demo.
not the demo. So not the marketing team, but the actual product. We're like, the product's not ready. We were trying to say, we think there's too many bugs. And so,
Oh,
they don't
that's even
release at
worse.
NAB. They just
Right.
announce at NAB. So it
Sure.
wasn't like we were telling them. Anyways, so they're like, okay, stay home. Literally, I had a bag packed. Like, I mean, I had my outfits picked out. Yeah. So we had to stay home and wrote like 200 million bugs, and it did make the product better. Like, we were super proud of the work we did, and when it was released, I don't even think it like pushed a release or anything. They just weren't happy to hear that we didn't think it was ready, and we're like, oh God.
But this was
So
still Final
this is
Cut
still
Classic.
7. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. I call
yeah,
everything before 10 Final Cut
yeah,
Classic.
yeah.
Um, so when did you first catch wind that you guys were gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater and start from scratch on Final Cut 10?
How is
And I
I mean,
ask
I
it,
don't remember the year, but
so let me explain why it's a curious question. In the user community, and I've turned down multiple job offers to work at Apple. I mean, I come on down, have lunch. Let me show you where the doctor's offices are.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the whole 9 yards. And the reason I always have is I felt, well, I'm busy. I'm doing other
Yeah.
stuff. But as a user, we don't understand the complexity of the machine.
So complex.
So complex. And I want all the users to understand that just because I go to the feedback forum and I say, hey, I need another color marker, or I
Yeah.
need a roles-based audio mixer. Like,
Yeah.
I sent that in last week. What the hell have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so when a decision gets made to say, we're going to change everything, about how long does that take? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 5 years? Is it 2 years? Really? Do you think they were
Yeah,
talking
it
about
was a while.
10 when you started in 2005?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Not
No,
that,
no, no,
not
no.
that early.
No, not that early. And I don't think they were actually talking about 10 until probably 2 years before 10. They were
Okay.
talking about other things.
Hmm.
Like, we knew something was going to have to change. I mean, we knew we weren't going to be able to continue building because of 32-bit. Like, we had to go 64.
Right.
So that catalyst, like, I mean, that was announced. I'm not giving any secrets here. Like, that's why,
Right.
hey, look it, we had to do it. So when you have to recreate something from the ground up, you're like, well, we're not going to just make the same mistakes.
Let's put an island in the kitchen while we're at it.
Yeah, so, um, but it took a while to figure out what that was for sure.
Right. I can imagine.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And to be clear, for a time frame, and again, this is the end user guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in the summer of 2010, a full year before the release,
Yeah.
but only like 6 months before it was announced, I had gotten fed up. And for me, it was like this 64-bit, 32-bit, not
Like, I
using all
don't
my
care.
RAM. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I remember there was a video that I had made with Joseph Lenashke,
Hmm.
and he explained, like, off camera, and he goes, well, the reason we export it like this and not like that is because it takes advantage of the whatever better. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
there's stuff about this I don't
I
understand.
don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, just because I go to a button and the button says this and I do that thing, it's much more confusing. And so anyway, the summer of 2010, I not only did I start editing in Premiere, and that would be 5.5, I believe, but I was like hardcore evangelizing for it. I had
Yeah.
done some work at Adobe.
Yeah.
I pointed out that they were not. Oh, do you know Kevin Monahan?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kevin sends me a message. He goes, dude, I took a job at Adobe. And I'm like, really?
Well,
And so when I started talking to the people that I knew at Adobe, I was like, hey, I just found out, you guys got Kevin. That's awesome. They're like, Kevin? I go, Kevin Monahan? Oh, I don't know him. I go, how do you not know who? This is like, if you want to crack the Final Cut market,
Yeah. Yeah.
you should
Back
go
then.
pull him out of whatever cubicle you've buried him in, and this is a great guy to get in contact with. Anyway, I think he's still at Adobe.
Yeah.
So that's the time frame of that. And so I'm a year before the release, and you're well into developing this tool that I'm not going to see for another year.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's super important to remember as a user.
Oh, yeah. And there was a lot of rethinks, and there was um, the work it took for I'm going to give you a simple example, like, because I will never forget, like, again, reorgs, lots of different ways of doing things. Our design org grew and got a lot of more traditionally trained designers at that time. And those of us that were more on the domain expert and workflow things were like, well, you just help out a little. And we were like, excuse us. So, but then that was a bump in the road. We worked that out, and we worked amazing together through the end of it. But for example, the browser, like the specification that we wrote on the browser alone, I want to say was like 90 pages.
Wow.
So 90 pages of writing behaviors, of writing rule sets, of writing what ifs, of writing. That's not a test suite. That's not visuals. There's no visuals. That's just now we got away from doing that because that obviously how long it took us to release Final Cut 10. It took a long time to write that amount of specification for every single interaction. But that's what we were working, that's how we were working back then, especially because all of the behaviors were so new and different.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a lot of upfront work, a lot of upfront engineering work, and a lot of design work. I didn't realize there was any other way to work since I left Apple and been playing around with some startups. I'm like, oh, you mean you don't want me to write 30 pages and then you'll figure out if you want to build it? They're like, no, we can just try it and see if it works. So that it's too expensive to do that back then. You couldn't just prototype and build things, but with engineers you couldn't. So you had to figure out all this stuff up front, and you were doing it with, I mean, I made magnets, square and rectangle magnets for a whiteboard to figure out trimming. Like, and you're like, okay, you have these two, and because you needed something that you could move. Again, I could do that so easily now in any of these prototyping tools, but back then we were literally using green and blue rectangles on a whiteboard to figure out trimming. And you just sit in a freaking conference room for hours on end and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that could work.
Now, was a lot of that work in like small work groups, like arguing about
small work groups?
What if
so we would have feature
happened?
Teams. Yeah, we would have like you'd have the people working on trimming. It would be like a couple engineers, a marketing person would be involved sometimes, designers, QA testers that would then think about it and then go back into Final Cut 7 and be like, oh well, if I tried it there, that doesn't make any sense. So it was just a lot of upfront work to get that out.
What was it like the first time let's take trimming?
Yeah.
And I actually, before we talk about trimming, I want to ask you about you said just the browser. So you were talking about there's so many things that are different. So like you could put something into one keyword and another keyword, and really is it going to
like, I will tell you, like, so that is one of the things I'm the most proud about, and we have patents on that, and that actually came from my cruise videos. Because my cruise videos, what we used to have to do in 7 was subclip everything, right? So you subclip the shit out of everything. Right. So I would have subclip for smiles. I would have subclips for conga line. I would have subclips. But then you're like, oh, but this subclip comes from a clip that also had smiles. But they were no longer related. Right. And that made no sense. And so then you couldn't figure out
to the original media.
You couldn't get back to the original. And so when we worked on the keywording, I'm like, I can't live with that anymore. Because I would have a week's worth of footage and you were just finding all those little bits and pieces. It was just montage editing. It wasn't narrative.
Sure.
But so when we did that, I remember working with this other designer, and we had the keywording down. Like, we knew we wanted to do these keywords and ranges and stuff. And then I'm like, yeah, and then it's going to create this folder. And I'm like, and so it's like you drag it in a folder, and then we're sitting there and I'm all, well, mentally, when you drag something in a folder, you're putting it in a keyword. You're saying to yourself, this is how I want to think of this section, because it's a folder and I'm going to put it in. I'm like, so why can't that just add the keyword? Like, literally, that's how we would work. Right, and that's how keywording happened.
Yeah.
And so, and it was like, well, I guess it could, but you weren't thinking like that. And I know tags work like that now, but tags weren't around then. And so that was based on like real world problems
and I'll tell you, one of the first, probably the job that made me push our entire business to Final Cut was, and I'll tell this super tight. It was like a 2-week road trip with BMW, actually Mini Cooper minis. And I had to deliver 2 to 3 videos per day out of the back of a tour bus. And when I came onto the job late, whole bunch of drama there I won't go into. When I came onto the job late, I looked at the deliverables that somebody else had promised to be able to deliver. And one of them was pets on the road. I had created a keyword called dogs or pets, whatever. And every time I just happened to see a shot, oh, there's a pet shot. Oh, there's a pet shot. And so like a week into it, the producer, week and a half into it, the producer goes, hey, what do you say? You want to try and crank out that dog video now? Select the keyword, select all, hit the letter E, drop it into a timeline. Next. You know, like it was almost that easy. It was very cool. It worked quite well.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's what we would, that was browser, and we would do the same thing for trimming.
So now the trimming, I want to back to the trimming. It must have been super exciting seeing trimming coming from a bunch of magnets on a whiteboard to then just something like the announcement video from NAB, or the first time you saw it on a screen and you just went, and everything just slid with it. Was that cool?
Yeah, it was cool. It was, so again, everything leading up to that point, like I made, and so this was for one of our, so again, big company, you got to sell this shit up, 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 up. Like when I started there, no. When I started, we were this tiny little Final Cut island that nobody really, like we did whatever we want. Like design reported into engineering. We were all one big team. And then as we grew, design became, you know, into this funnel. QA and workflow became into this funnel, engineering, and then their people at top had opinions. So then you have to convince all those people at top to. So that's how it started going. So we would have to create a lot of, you know, it was like you were doing pitches, like so you were creating pitch videos. So the pitch video I created for trimming, I'll never forget it. Like it had like this old timey music, and like it was like and I used the film thing with the scratches and like old timey lettering, and it was like clip collisions, and it would show a clip collision, and then it would go, oh, okay, so then you move this, you add a track, you move these tracks to this one, and then you can do a trim. And it's like, oh, and then you lost sync. No, that's not what I want. So I created this whole like old timey, like sepia toned
see this video.
Yeah. Right. And then it was like, okay, what if that went away? And then we did an animation of what the timeline would be like. Yeah. And it was like, oh, look, no clip collisions, no losing sync, no this. It was just like,
it seems like the people that are the better, not just communicators, but like, I almost want to say the word influencer, but that means something totally different these days. But if you can persuade,
it's a storyteller.
If you can persuade people that you're going to get really far and get a lot of your, did it ever feel like you were keeping score? Like you'd walk out of one of those pitch meetings and say, ha, they listened to me, they didn't listen to you?
No, I mean, we didn't really there wasn't, so that was something that Apple was very particular about. You did everything to go in to those types of meetings as a cohesive unit, and so that's some of the reasons things went slow, is because you had to get everybody at this level to agree before you even took it to the next level.
Wow.
You know, because I had to get engineering, and then QA had to say, that's good enough, or no, that doesn't feel good enough. Like, so there was, and then marketing had to say, that's not going to be exciting enough to market. Like, so there was a number of people that really had to agree, or engineering had to say, we can even do this, right? Like, it's not going to be performative to do that. That's going to take too much RAM, too much whatever, right? So those were the types of conversations we would have before maybe we would even do a pitch. Like,
Right.
so you had to do all that background work before you could even take it anywhere.
So I don't want to dwell on the release and the post-release.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was like a whole lot of
So
frustration.
fun.
So fun. Okay,
So fun.
that's called sarcasm.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was just
Yeah.
so frustrating. Did you ever just want to like break every rule and like start going to user group meetings or whatnot and saying, let me explain to you why we did this. You got it. You're not listening to us.
Um, Again, going back to an NAB, the first, so we weren't at the NAB where it was announced, but the next one we all went to. And by then
Okay.
we had done a number of releases. Like,
Yeah.
because when I
That first
started,
year
we were
was
doing,
Fast and
we
Furious.
were, yeah, because we had that stuff in the can. Like, I mean, not in the can, but like already,
In the
like
pipeline.
almost ready to go in the
Yep.
pipeline. But when we went, I think I described it to somebody as if I showed up to NAB and I felt like every face I saw was like an ex-boyfriend who I had cheated on. Like, I was like, I mean, it literally, we were like, what did I do to you? I
Yeah.
mean, it was harsh. It
Yeah.
was super awkward. Um, Yeah, it really was. It was, and then it taught me so much though about trust and in terms of like what it means from a user base
Mm.
and a product, what that,
So you're
yeah,
saying about respecting that trust between a developer and a
yeah, and
user?
how, well, how, like, I was like, get over it. Like, how are these people this mad? Like, I didn't cheat on them. I
Yeah. I
didn't
didn't
kill
actually
their
cheat on you.
grandma. I didn't
Yeah,
kill their
exactly.
dog. Um, So it was, but it was like, oh, but they trusted us with their livelihood and they
Yeah.
feel like we've broken that trust.
Yeah.
Um,
And you, I mean, you understand it in
oh
retrospect,
yeah,
but
in
at the
retrospect,
time,
at the
at the time it didn't
time,
seem like it was going to be quite so harsh.
and it didn't. And we knew what we were doing. We knew we were changing the way people were thinking, but I'll stand by it. I still think it's a better way to work. Like, uh, uh,
100%.
you know,
And
um,
that's why I'm here.
yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't think we knew we'd get that. Well, obviously we didn't know we'd get that reaction.
So did it, I think when you say the net in that first year,
Yeah.
I believe it was, I want to say it was, okay, if it came out in 11, at the end of 2012 was I believe the transition from 10.0 to 10.1. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall specifically that being a big deal? Because obviously it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
There
I
was that
felt
whole
like it was like,
crazy, there was that whole crazy thing with like the shelf down below and like, you know, that
um,
wasn't, that bun wasn't ready to come out of the oven.
no, we felt like it finally had the features that we knew we wanted it to have that were
Mhm.
better. I mean, multicam, again, like when we were redoing multicam, it was just like, well, it's a pretty known quantity. You have a 4 up and you have a this and or whatever, 8 up, blah blah blah, and you cut it. And then I mean, I do remember I'm like, but why is it a black box? Like, why can't I see inside of the clip?
Yeah.
Well, that's how. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so that was another one that it was just like, well, no, we're gonna let
You're
you
talking you're
change
talking
that.
about building out the multicam editor where you can,
Yeah,
so
or
listen,
you could.
can I tell you my first, so the week that multicam was released, the day before, we had a crew in LA shooting a music video. I did not know how we were going to cut it, except for the
Oh
old
my
way of
God,
just stacking everything up in
stacking it. Yeah.
craziness, right? And then, so the day they're shooting, I'm reading, Mac Rumors or wherever that comes out. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So the first multicam edit I
Oh
did
my God.
in 10
Oh my God.
had 20 angles.
Oh God.
So 16 plus the next screen. And to this day, Paul and I talk about, Paul's my boss, what fun that night was.
Yeah.
We had the first draft of it done in a day, and we were poking away at it into the evening, and his wife is called, hey, are you coming home for dinner? Yeah, I'm sorry, got wrapped up, I'm on my way. And then we went to review it with the client, the band, and the lead singer, he said, he goes, hey, so I'm a pretty vain dude, and my face is all over that thing, and I love every shot of it. It's awesome. Don't change anything. Like, how many times do you get that in your career where it's like first draft done, ship it. Anyway, that was fun. That was my first multicam edit, and it was fantastic. It worked great, and thank you.
Well, I mean, I think, like you said, that was the other thing. And I mean, for anybody that knows me, like I am not your typical corporate. I've done really well so far. I haven't sworn that much. People used to have bets when I would get up and do presentations, like how long it would take to swear. I remember one presentation I did had like a swear word, but like crossed out in it, and everyone's like, "Well, does that count? Because that's only 5 minutes." Um, so, but fun and joy and like that is where, I mean, I think that's what I tried to do. Like I've never considered myself a tech person. Um, and so it was just like, okay, how can I have fun using an application where, there are the stresses of getting an edit done. There are the stresses of time. There are the stresses, but it's like, it's gotta, it's gotta feel fun. There's gotta, even fun is like figuring out a workaround, right? Like, oh, how else could I do this? Like we would see people that were using multicam to do completely different workflows. And we're like, that's freaking cool. Like, so giving that to the job and, having that, like I said, using magnets, making silly videos, like that was part of what I did and my team did and we did, I mean, as a team. So
that's great. All right, let me look at my notes. Remember I sent you those. You said you said I don't even know what we talk about, and in like 20 seconds I spewed out 15 questions. So from your time at Apple, what are the memories that you have that you enjoy the most?
I mean, again, my team. So by the time I left, so I went from workflow to Final Cut lead to Final Cut manager and then to pro video management. So then that team at the time there was 8 of us. And then there was a few other designers on the team that also worked on, clips and iMovie, and we did some iMovie stuff. And um, but my team, like I miss still to this day, and I am lucky enough to work with a couple of them still since I've left. So Wes Plate being one of them, and then Jordan is the other. And so that like made the madness of the corporate machine all worth it. Um, but also just people, like, going to the NABs, going to the creative summits, and going to um and to meet. I mean, we would do client visits, right? And so we'd sit there and, like I said, we'd learn how people were using, and we that would give us ideas. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like
Right.
that was so exciting. Like seeing how people were using it, seeing what people needed. Um, Whenever I would hire designers or talk to new designers, and even to this day, I'm like, you have to look at designing as like investigative journalism. Like you say you wrote this thing to the Final Cut team that I need blue markers. Okay. Why? Well, because if I have a blue marker here, I'm going to be able to see it and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to go as far as how does blue make you feel, but I might. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
did you like blue? Does your background blue? Like, so you have to, like, that part I love, like understanding people and helping people understand what they're even asking for. Because
Right.
they're not going to ask for roles.
Right.
Nobody asks for roles. Nobody asks for
But
keywords.
yeah.
But if you can, so that was always, I was watching a spy movie the other day, and my husband and I were like, fuck, man, I'd love to be a spy. Like, it's just that, I know, like, but like that kind of like, ooh, I'm going to figure this problem out and I'm really going to get to the bottom. And then again, doing that like puzzle piecing together where you've got 10 customer, requests, and you're like, I think these are related. I think they're all asking for something different, but we could give them something that's better that works to solve all those problems. Like that's
Yeah.
like the timeline index kind of came out of that. So that was always so fun to me.
That's great. So I've always said that, you know, back in the early days of 10, there was so much complaining about the missing features.
Yeah.
But then Multicam came out and it was better than I imagined.
Yeah.
And then paste attributes came out and it was
Yeah.
better than it ever was. And I think you guys always did a really good job at that detective work,
Yeah.
like combining those things together. Brilliant. That
Yeah.
I've always just felt like, yeah, you know what? I kind of do need that, but I have a way of doing it. When Colleen and the gang send me something new, I'm sure it's going to be great. Do you ever remember getting messages from me when you'd go on vacation and I'd say, "Hey, get back to the
Hurry
office and
back.
work on my
Hurry.
software.
Hurry.
I don't know why you're in Thailand when
Yeah.
Cupertino's over here.
Sorry.
Go
Yeah.
to work."
What can you do from there? Not much. Bring me another
Um,
Mai Tai.
so, if you could go back, is there any
Mm.
set of circumstances where they called you up and they said, "Colleen, we
Sure.
need you.
I'm not going
Can
to
you?"
tell you what they are, but sure.
Okay, that's good to know. By the way, I have my list. Like if anybody asked me, like what could
Yeah.
we do, on my list, very high on the list would be get Colleen back.
I mean, there's
Seriously.
like most of my team has dissipated
Mm-hmm.
um and left. Not because I'm not like, oh, I left, so all these people left. No, that's not at all. But a lot of people have gone different ways. And I think, the engineering team is still pretty much the same. They've got some great people. I mean, the people care. And like I said, the people do. We always read, like, we had like a meeting a day where we were looking at bugs and looking at customer requests and looking at like that was something we did, and we took it seriously, and we had spreadsheets, and we had, okay, we have to do this, we have to do this. But again, as Apple got bigger and bigger and as OS has changed so much of the underpinnings, um, you also have to build to live on top of that. And
Right.
so
That's
that
a good point.
changed a lot too. Like every release, now we were having to make sure that 10 and motion and compressor and the things and plugins and all of the things that go along with that ecosystem actually would work on the next OS. So sometimes that was half of the staff.
Yeah. Again, back to the end user
Yeah.
perspective, we don't see
Yeah.
the difficulty of
Yeah.
all this stuff. And that has got to be just
Yeah.
eternally frustrating from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Um,
So what are you working on now?
Not much. My next trip, I am traveling a ton,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. we've done some work, like I said, with Wes and Jordan. We've done a few projects since we've left. I've done a few editing projects. We did a lot of work for Scenery Video, which was acquired by Adobe. So that team is now at Adobe. It was an online editing, and that was another really like, okay, they're trying to do something different. And when we came onto the team, they were looking at like, we Final Cut didn't have tracks. They actually were using like pixel values for where clips lived instead of time. And so that was just a whole nother like editing on a canvas. And that was another really great exercise. Like, can we do this? And some of it you could, and some of it you couldn't. And um, super fun work there. And then I've done some work for a medical record review app. Um, Again, sounds like nothing in the world I would be interested in. But what happened was it turned out like it was still storytelling, right?
Hmm.
You were still trying to take a patient's records, extract metadata, pull metadata in a way that you could view it, put it together in a way that somebody could understand something about it. And I'm like, oh, that's just an edit.
It's
Like,
keywords and timeline index
it's
and
seriously,
roles.
right? So that was kind of fascinating to me. Um, so that was really, I was kind of a fractional CPO there for a while. They're lean and mean right now, and they're just trying to like, the fucking startup world's nuts right now. Like,
I
yeah,
can't imagine.
yeah,
I have been very deliberate in staying in my lane,
yeah,
and I'm sitting here
yeah.
thinking I would love to direct and edit and have you be my editor. I think that'd be really
It'd be
fun.
so fun.
So
Yeah.
where do you see the industry going?
I mean, so I'm in my downtime. Um, I'm using as much, trying as many different AI applications, whether they are directly related to creative or not. Um, I'm finding some really interesting things like, oh, cool, make me a song for this wedding video I did for my friend.
Suno.
I got right, or 11 Labs. And so things that I don't feel passionate about being perfect. Um, But when I try to use some of these other tools, very templatized tools, that's when I have a really hard time because I'm like, I know what I want.
Me
And to
too.
have to dissect or unengineer the template thing is then gets too hard and too frustrating. Um, and I want this exact part and it's too hard to get it. So I just end up giving up um, and then going into Final Cut and doing it. Um, so I don't know. I think I'm trying to stay up on it. I see a lot of really cool stuff. I still don't think it's. I still think you have to help people understand how to tell a good story, and I don't see a lot of it doing that yet. I
I'm
see it giving
fast.
people all these pieces. Like you
Yeah.
can make all these pieces. And it's like, okay, cool. You just let me create every single puzzle piece that could ever exist. Now, how the fuck do I put it together? Like,
Right. Totally agree.
so
I think the I'm fascinated listening. I'll just listen to conversation. This is part of the reason why I read so slowly. If I tried to read, your 90-page document,
yeah,
I'd be going, huh, seems like there should be a comma here. I wonder why they chose that word.
yeah,
That's too many syllables. If that was 3 syllables instead of 4, it would match the cadence of the sentence
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Like I get so sucked into
yeah,
language and delivery, and that's why I like stuff like Aaron Sorkin and the scripts that he
yeah,
writes. They're musical, and
yeah,
uh, I think that people, like you say, a million puzzle pieces, but don't know what to do with them. What's the
yeah.
point?
I'm like, okay, I can create a character in this app now that has every expression you could ever. And I'm like, okay, I still don't. Now what? And I have to use like 13 different applications to you make it in this one, and then you do the audio in this one, and then you do the audio like.
And you do the camera
Um,
wiggle in this app and the lip sync in this
yeah.
app. And yeah, I know.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Again, I think there was a fear in the YouTube era, which was Final Cut 10. Let's just be honest, that's who it was made for. Like, we knew that. Um, that there was just going to be an abundance of crap, right? Like, right now, I mean, you're giving a tool to everybody, and while that's awesome, you're also just going to get so much junk. Um, I think we'll go through that, obviously. There'll be all these people that are like, I can create now. Um, but you're still going to have to find the people that have an interesting story to tell.
What I think is really interesting is the people who say, I can create now, and then they like go to Fiverr because they don't know how. They think
Yeah,
they can
I
create, but
know.
now I need an editor and I have $50. You know, it's like,
I know.
sweetie, I'm
But
not gonna turn off my alarm for less than that.
it's also like this was Jordan used to say it. He's like, you can't teach taste.
No.
Like, you can't. And so Apple, like we and I didn't really get how tasteful things were until I went and how perfectionist and things were until I went to the outside and realized that's not how everyone works. Like I just assumed like
Yeah.
everyone had it. And it's just like, no, so I don't think AI is going to do that.
No.
Um, pacing, things like that. Like that's where I wish it would help people. People that had a story to tell but couldn't perfect it. Like get that trim like 2 frames earlier so that it's not,
Can you imagine a
with the
prompt
mouth
coming out,
open.
a prompt that comes up that says, "Are you
Yeah.
sure you want to cut
Are
here?
you sure? Are you
Are
sure?
you
Right?
really?"
Like, no, but like, or a cleanup tool. Like, I've got this rough edit and I'm like, analyze it against something that helps me feel better about it. But if you don't feel that it's bad and you should be only creating for yourself, then again, you can't teach it. So I don't know. I really don't know. I'm excited about people who do know how to tell stories using it to make their shit better. Um, but I haven't seen the tool yet that I'm like, I'm going to use this every day and on every edit. And, you know, I mean, I was doing some travel videos and I'm like, okay, it made me a cool 3D title. That's awesome because I would never take the time to do that for one of my travel videos. I just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so in that sense, I'm like, okay, but I had to work at it because it looked really cheesy at first. But again, it's the people who are out there, they're like, oh no, it looks great.
That's the dartboard analogy, and to be fair, I I'm going to say something that's anti what you're saying, but I swear by it. And I have said this many times. Oftentimes in corporate video, the understanding is that if this dart doesn't hit not only in the bullseye, but in the center of the bullseye, then we have failed.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, and this is the reality of corporate video, it's the reality of corporate communications, it is the reality of the industry. Most of the time, the dart just has to hit the board.
Yeah. Right?
like let's not kid ourselves, because
Yeah.
sometimes I see it happen where it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And this is very anti-Apple. And I discussed
Yeah.
this a bit with Joseph. I said, sometimes we overdo it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to say, hey, maybe this video isn't going to win any awards.
Yeah.
It's really not
Yeah.
that good. Let's get it over with and get on to the
Yeah.
next job,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand that that's not an Apple mentality.
Yeah.
Colleen, I hate to do this, but because we had to slide some things around, I have other jobs to go do. This has been really fun.
So
I'm glad
fun.
I'm glad I was nervous. I was the appropriate amount nervous. I would
So
love to do this.
nothing.
If you're ever
Yeah.
are working on something and you want to talk about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
reach out. You can, I really enjoy you. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for all the work that you did.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I now
No,
I
we
understand
had a
why there's
great.
so many of these things. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Because now I know how they were built. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We had a lot of care behind it. So
Yeah,
awesome.
you
Thank
did.
you,
A
Chris.
lot of care.
Thanks for
Thank you.
always being a friend. All right. Right on,
All
man.
right.
Have a good
Don't
one.
don't run
Bye.
off too quick. Hold on. I gotta hit
Okay.
the little stop button here.
Tell me how this works.
Oh yeah.